Today's my birthday. I'm pretty proud of myself for the work I've done and the work that I've put into being in this place that I am today. You can hear the sounds of nature around me. I'm in Thailand now. I'm on a little island in Thailand, and I've been traveling 2.5 months. And I look at the place I was 2.5 years ago to the place I am, not just in the external part of the world, but the internal part of me, where everything matters. And I'm so grateful to be free from so many complications in life, such as things that are derived from fear, anxiety, and stress. And I know about these things because I lived with them for a large portion of my life, as many of us do. But I made a choice to free myself from these things that were holding me back. And a lot of the things that kept me inside of fear, anxiety, and stress were emotions, because that's what a lot of that is. It's an emotional, repetitive cycle that we practice. None of us want to be afraid of things. None of us want to be stressed out or anxious, but we practice that behavior. So we get good at it, even though it's not beneficial to our evolution or growing into a person that we love. We do it because it's what we've been taught, or we taught ourselves. And that was an observation that I made in prison. But, prison was a wonderful place for me because I'd practiced pretending to be someone I wasn't for so much of my life. It had taken me down roads that had me lose myself, and I used drugs as a way to distract from getting to know who I was or showing the world who I was. I was always hiding. And I was afraid. I was afraid to be the man that I am. And that's ego. A large portion of why we do that is ego. Ego tells us we're better than other people, or we're not good enough. And that isn't the function of ego, but that's what we've taught it. It's become a defense mechanism. And for some of us, staying inside of fear, anxiety, and stress, or not feeling adequate, or not wanting to speak our truth, has become a defense mechanism. So we please everyone else, or we stay quiet within, and we don't listen to our heart, or our self, or our higher self. So we do things we don't want to do. And for myself, it was drug addiction. Many, many years of it, because I couldn't communicate to people how I felt. And I didn't know what to do with the feelings because no one taught me what to do with them. But it was my fault because I couldn't talk to my parents about how I was feeling on the inside at a very young age. I was very aware, very conscious of things at a very young age, but I didn't know how to communicate because in my family we didn't do that. We didn't communicate, and that's pretty normal because my parents were never taught how to communicate in their childhood. So naturally, they went with what they were taught, which was to make money and to put a roof over the head and make sure that the child went to school and had food. Now, I had love. I had examples of love in my life, for sure. Materialism was a way that I was shown love, but even though I had all the materialism I could ever want, the only thing I ever needed was a friend. And not that my parents didn't know how to be friends, but they just didn't know how to build that relationship of open communication, because everything that matters comes from the inside. And I had to learn that on my own. And many of us do. We always want to look to things to fix us or get the quick fix, right? Because that's what society today tells us can happen for us. We live in this age of convenience, but really the convenience has slowed us right down. And for me, I look to those observations as things I should be highly aware of, because things that are convenient for me aren't usually good for me. But when we do that with trying to better ourselves, it can become very problematic, because there's nothing authentic about it. It's a synthesized version of how to arrive at yourself, and usually it's filled with complications such as side effects. Or if somebody tries to sell you on the idea that you can go on an inward journey of self-discovery and figure it all out in 30 days, I would think that that individual is trying to take your money. Because I can tell you the journey inward doesn't come with a price tag, because it's priceless. And it's something you have to do on your own. That's what makes it priceless. You do the work. And I did that in my life, and I love to use my life as an example or an inspiration to help other people listening to this, that may be looking at their lives and going, I didn't have a 23-year drug addiction, or, I wasn't in jail and I wasn't homeless for a number of years. And people like to compare the lives to other people. And if for my life and my journey, if that is an example or a comparison for you to look at where you are in your life and give you some sort of inspiration to make changes in your life to better yourself and live with love within yourself, please use it. I love my story, as will you. Everything I talk about is here to help you grow. Because I can't change you. Nobody can. So if you're trying to do that within relationships or whatever you're trying to do to change something, you can't do that. The only thing you can affect is within you. And we like to give so much of our attention and energy to other things because it distracts us from having to do work on the inside. And the inside is where everything matters. We just don't know how to do it. And I didn't either. I had nothing. I had nobody. But I knew I had one thing. And it was the fact that I believed in myself. And even though I didn't know how to love myself, I was making a conscious choice to do that. And how loving myself looked to me in the very beginning was honesty and authenticity. That's where I started. I knew when I got out of jail, when I was in jail, actually, I practiced this in jail because I knew if I could practice this in jail, the person that I wanted to be in the external world would make it. So I became honest and authentic in jail. A lot of people like to tell a lot of crazy stories in jail and be somebody they're not. Me, I just was honest. And I chose that route and it worked out well for me. As we all know, the truth will set you free. It's just something we don't practice because we're always trying to be somebody we're not. And when you start speaking your truth from within and you start listening to yourself, the heart, mind, you start becoming the person that you want to be because you're listening to that inner voice, that inner child, or that higher self, whatever. The heart has a mind. We all know what we want in our lives. It's just whether or not we're willing to listen to it. Many of us distract so quickly from listening to that little voice inside that has our best interest at hand, our best interest at hand. Not giving so much away for other people, but what's good for us. We've become so good at distracting from that so quickly that we quiet that voice without even listening to it. We can't even hear it anymore. And to do that, you've got to practice mindfulness. You've got to become mindful of your situation. And when you're trying to evolve into a being love, or you've chosen to love yourself, becoming mindful of what's good for you is a requirement. It's not selfish in any way to do this, because we've become so removed from who we are that what we present to the world or to the people that we love is not authentic. And if people love us, they would only want us to be honest and authentic. And sometimes to do that, we have to give ourselves time to really reconnect with who we are. And I valued that. I valued that more than anything. And that's why I progressed to the place I have in 2.5 years, because I gave it the attention it required. Now, did I have to have a job? Of course. I still had to do everything that everybody does. There's no excuses, and I didn't make excuses. That was a big part of it, is I knew I was going to evolve from the place I was to the person that I wanted to be. And I knew that that was going to take work for me to do that. So I had to give it attention, and I had to value it. And we're talking about a guy who didn't value anything before. I certainly didn't value myself. I was so far away from that human. I became so disconnected from me, as many of us are. My experience is just different than yours, absolutely. But becoming disconnected from who you are is something we can all associate with. Basically, what I was doing in that side of that 23 years of turmoil was living with a lack of love. Addiction was just a distraction. That's what addiction is, And addiction doesn't just have to be drugs. These days it's social media, it's video games, it's food, it's shopping, it's sugar, it's caffeine. Let's get real, right? An addiction is just a label. But what is it? What makes the human want to repeat the same thing over and over and over again? And we do that because we distract. We want to distract ourselves from what's real. A lot of people with caffeine and sugar, it's because they're tired. The body isn't meant to consume as much caffeine and sugar as we give it. And that's why we see the results of poor health practices in many individuals. But we make excuses for that because, I'm tired, I got to work, I got to make money, I got to do this, I got to do that. But really, when you simplify your life, and you become mindful of what's really good for you, you'll see that a lot of things that society deems as acceptable are just an idea, somebody else's idea. They're not yours. It's just something you've been taught or programmed to do. And man, when you break free from that, when you start to observe life and the practices that you choose to do in your life, you become free. And that is such a beautiful place to be. And I can tell you the gift that I have within me is freedom. And it's that way because I live in the present moment and I'm very conscious and I observe all the choices and all the energy that I allow into my life or I make in my life. And I'm very grateful for that. And it took work. You know, I had to put my life back together from nothing. And that was as difficult as I made it. To be honest with you, you know, I can make any kind of excuse as to why it was so hard or why it wasn't hard. But the reality of that situation is it was as difficult as I made it. And I had my lessons to learn in the beginning of my evolution into love. Of course, I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't even know where to begin, you know? But I didn't want to give up. And for me, that was a beautiful thing. When I started to look at life as a series of lessons and experiences, it made life very simple. Because there was nothing to get emotional or reactive about. It was just like, okay, you know, this was a test, or this was just a difficult lesson, or this was a wonderful lesson. However it looked, I was able to take education from the experience. And that made everything so much more beautiful within my life because I knew I was just here to learn. I know I'm a human being and I'm here to learn. Sometimes those lessons are difficult and sometimes they're not. But that's all it is. All the situations, everything we go through in life is just education. It's just how we look at it. If we choose to get caught up in the emotions, which I did as well, then it holds us in one place and we don't learn anything. Because all we want to do is feel or distract ourselves from feeling. And once you start to see in this manner, you can grow into any person you want to be. Now, does it take practice? Absolutely. The evolution into love, for me, in my personal opinion, never ends. This idea of enlightenment, I'm not too sure about it because I know that if there is this state to achieve, then there would be a new one right behind it. You never stop learning. Life is always a practice and it's always going to be filled with education. And I know for me on my journey, that's how it goes. So once you become a student of life, you just observe it so much differently. You don't have to react to everything. And human beings are just a version of yourself. If you start to plant this idea in your mind that, you know, when you come up against other human beings and you see people in situations, picture yourself as that individual or a version of yourself. It really helps so much to view human beings, a part of the human race, as family. You know, it gives you a different perspective. It sort of teaches ego a new way to look at things. And that's really what you want to do, right? Is teach yourself a new perspective of life, not the one you've been taught or sold. And that's taking back your independence. That's taking back your freedom. And every single human being deserves this. But you have to understand how powerful you are. You have to understand that the power that is within you in belief, if you believe in yourself and you trust in whatever spiritual aspect you want to trust in. Because let me tell you about spirituality. Spirituality is just love. That's what it is. It's just love. Everything is one. That's how it goes. Nature, humans, everything, energy is all one. You know, when you're able to see that and appreciate and be grateful for this opportunity to be a part of this collective, oh man, there's no more division. You know, then you can trust in something more. Because there is something more than all of us, for sure. Absolutely. But you've got to affect that in your own way. You've got to take moves to achieve whatever you desire. Because achieving what you desire means you're putting work in. And to put work in, you're going to get what you want out of life. Now, what you want might not be what you need. So the journey of life might guide you on a different path. It happens to me all the time. Things that I want, they don't work out, but it works out another way. It's just whether or not you're willing to slow down and accept the education that life has to offer you. But if you believe in yourself, you can do anything. And I'm proof of this, you know? If society says I came from the bottom, good. I came from the bottom. Because you know what? The power of love and the power of belief is what is going to bring me to the top. And I'm not going to the top by myself. I'm taking everybody with me because I don't want to be at the top by myself. I don't even know what that means. That's a crazy egotistical way to look at life. But I get it. People be grinding. And they've been sold on an idea that if they get the financial freedom, that they will be exempt from some sort of journey of happiness and self-love. They'll have attained it through materialistic items. But let's be real. We all know this is a lie. Look at the celebrities. Look at these people that we're supposed to idolize. You know, they're not happy. The money didn't make them happy. Fame didn't make them happy. Celebrity status didn't make them happy. You know why? Because happiness comes within. It's not something you buy. It's something you gotta find within you. And I found mine in my darkness. And it was a beautiful place to find it. Took me a while to find it, I can tell you that. But my darkness became my greatest asset. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it taught me and it brought me to this place, this present moment, this gift. That's the gift I received for my birthday. Ever since I decided to make a choice, was living in the present moment. Let me tell you what living in the present moment does for you. It exempts you from fear, anxiety, and stress. Because you're able to observe the moment, and you know when you're in the moment, that's all you can affect. So by being positive and understanding that this place and time is where you're supposed to be, then you're not fearful, anxious, or stressful about anything out of your control. And you're present for the moments that matter the most, that make up the big picture. Because it's all the small moments that make up the big picture, absolutely. But most of us are living in the past, we're thinking about the future, that we miss it. We miss all the wonderful moments that make up life. Like, parenting these days around Netflix or the television. And the rest of the evening is them upstairs totally addicted to social media. Because let's be real, that's what it is. I'm seeing kids 3 and 4 years old just so addicted to the phone. It's what it is. Traveling has taught me that. I used to think that the biggest thing I was up against was the television, but it's not. Not everybody can afford the television, but a lot of people got the internet in a lot of places that don't have much. They still have phones, and they still got internet plans, which hooks them in and links them into this addiction to things that aren't helping them grow. And then they're practicing the behaviors of being on the phone for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. That's crazy. Because you're just giving your attention to another agenda that's going to tell you how to feel or how to be. Or let's be real. We know what social media does. It's not good for us. Now think a 3 or 4 year old with no education and no responsibility. They have no clue what they're setting themselves up for, but we do as parents, and that's our responsibility to step up for them. And living in the present moment will teach you that, because you'll be present for that moment with them. And that's important. There won't be 2 hours of around the TV time at night. It'll be let's get to know my kids and let's get to know ourselves and let's open up about communication and feelings. To grow up as a child these days with the internet the way it is, it's not easy for them. It's a different time than we grew up in, right? So it's our role to step up and ask them how they feel. Even if we weren't taught how to communicate about feelings, it's our role to be the example in their lives, to step up. Now, you don't have to be a parent to do that. I'm not just talking to parents, man. I'm talking to anyone. We're all teachers. We're all family. If you see kids in situations that, sitting on the bus or the train or whatever, communicate, man. You never know what you could say to one individual that could stay with them for a lifetime. If something happened to you in your life and you think you could share that with someone in the right moment, please do that. That's education. That's what helps us grow. And the practice of that will help you evolve into love, because shared knowledge is what love is. Build that up within yourself. Feel. Feel. That's one of the most beautiful gifts I gave myself, was allowing myself to feel, because that's what emotions are. You're intended to feel, but you're not supposed to stay stuck inside of things. Just like we're not supposed to do jobs every single day, we're not supposed to get lost inside of the emotional repetitive cycle of emotions. They're there to allow us to feel something which can teach us something about ourselves and other people, because there's a lesson inside of it. It's just whether or not we choose to see it. And sometimes that lesson's difficult to accept, absolutely. There's a accountability and responsibility that has to go into some experiences. Absolutely. We all have to be accountable and responsible for the roles that we partook in the experience, but sometimes we don't want to do that. We want to play the victim and lay blame, because that's easier to do, right? We don't have to accept nothing for nobody, because we can blame somebody else and just stay stuck inside of that. That won't get you nowhere. So observe that. If you're trying to set a new way and a new pattern for yourself, observe that. I share these things with you because I went through it. I'm not special, I'm not unique, I'm just a human being, you know what I mean? But I want to take everything that I learned and share that with you, because that's what knowledge is. I mean, the greatest knowledge comes from human experience. Now, many of us are in situations or find ourselves in similar places, and that's why I speak to a living with a lack of love, because many of us can understand that these days, especially the children. There's a lot going on there. But if we understand that within ourselves, when we make a choice to be something better, we can teach that. And we can learn from each other, and we can grow from each other, and we can build communities where we can come together and have honest conversations. I mean, when I talk to people out here in the world, anybody, man, I'm real. That's how it is. I tell people I was in jail, I was living with a 23-year drug addiction, I was homeless, I was this, I lost my kid. All these things, because that's a part of me. It doesn't define me, but it made me the man that I am today, because it helped me grow into a human being of love. And I'll tell you, when I tell people that these days, they're like, man, that's just so inspiring, because there's no bullshit. No one's trying to be somebody they're not. So you have that choice to be around individuals who are speaking their truth or who aren't, who continue to pretend that everything's okay when it isn't. Because who you surround yourself with plays a role in who you are. And we know that. Many of the problems that are around us are because people are doing, we're following other people, what they're doing, and it's not speaking our own truth, or we're not listening to that inner voice or that inner child. And that's a gift to start that practice, If you're tired of being in situations that you just don't want to be in anymore, make a choice to be somebody different. That's where it begins. You just make a choice. And you stick to it. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get it right away, but just stick to it. Value it. There's so much within it. Like, I'm talking about this power, man. I really want you to understand the value in this power that human beings have. It's incredible. It is some positivity. It's teaching yourself how to practice positivity and practice mindfulness. And if you need to start your day, which you should, by looking at yourself in the mirror, and you look at that person and you tell that individual that you're proud of them and that you love them. You want a great place to start every morning, start right there. It takes baby steps, But you're going to think about that. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're going to start practicing that. You're going to see who you are. And it's okay to let go of the pain from the past and just be in that present moment with yourself and decide to be somebody new. Because I had a lot of baggage from my past. Society had deemed me as not being able to pull myself back together, because that was their observation of me. But the observation that I had of myself when I looked at myself in the mirror was something completely different. And it was because I believed it that I became it. And I really can't stress that to you enough. Anything you believe in, you can do. And when I talk about giving away our power, we do this by trying to take care of other people, trying to make everybody else's needs come before our own. And that is a learned behavior many of us have been taught. But it's one you have to start to observe. It doesn't help the people that you're trying to give your energy to, because you haven't taken any back for yourself. That's not selfish. It's a requirement. You've got to have this power within you. You've got to have this energy, this balance within you, this harmony, this love. It deserves a home in you as much as it does in other people. And if you don't take time to understand who you are and give yourself self-love and self-care, and giving yourself some positive affirmations and telling yourself you're proud of who you are and the things that you have achieved in your life, take a look at some of the positives. Many of us focus on the negatives, but look at some of the positives and tell yourself the truth. Tell yourself the truth. And that's okay. Because once you tell yourself the truth, you're in a place in time that's in the present moment. And that's a beautiful place to be, because you don't have to distract no more, Whether the present moment brings you to, positive realizations or realizations that you see that you need to change, that's okay. It's totally okay. If you're not in the place that you thought you would be or that you wanted to be, that's cool. I mean, at least if you're aware of it and you're observing it, you can now effectively change it. Take steps to change it. That's a beautiful thing to have acknowledge. These are baby steps as to how to get to the person and the place you want to be. Because I don't want you to give up. And I mean that. If I would have given up I would have gone back into the 23-year repetitive cycle that I was bound in for quite some time. And it was because I didn't give up that I'm still here and I'm growing and I'm going to places that I want to go. I can go anywhere, I can do anything, and I'm gonna. And anybody listening to this podcast, I appreciate you so much. And I know that if you're listening to this podcast, that you're appreciating yourself, because that's something I talk about heavily. Because this isn't for me, man. This is for you. I just want you to understand what you have inside of you, and I want you to embrace that, and I want you to become it. Because we are beings of love. We are highly evolved spiritual beings. And I just want you to remember that. And in order to remember that, you got to take time for yourself. Stop with the distractions. And go on the journey inward on your own terms, so you understand yourself and love on your own terms. Now, I also want you to know that things in your life might change, but it's okay. You know, the things in life that don't support this evolution in life, they've got to go. They just do. Because if you stay stuck trying to give yourself to something that doesn't support this evolution, it's going to take you longer. And you're not going to get to where you want to go as fast as you do. And it'll just teach you difficult lessons along the way, and that's okay too. However it works out for you. I'm just sharing from my experience what I went through in my life. But yeah, things definitely change, and that's cool. So if you're ready to change, and you're ready to take steps into being whoever you want to be, I'm here for the ride for you. To be real with you, I'm here for you. And I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really excited to be able to be in this position to listen to people's journeys and you know, get the wonderful feedback and encourage and inspire and share perspective and share education through experience. And I'm so grateful for that, for you, for listening to this and sharing with me the things that you're going through in your life and just evolving together. I mean, this is what it means to evolve. We're going to do this through love. And then everything's going to change, because the fear, anxiety, and stress of the world is going to go away. Because that's what love is. Love is a movement. And we're going to start one. But you got to do that within first. And once enough of us do it within, the collective grows. And that's real. I mean, that's how we change the world. All we got to do is change how we see it. Once you change how you see it, it's infectious. And it runs through people. So don't give up on yourself. You believe in yourself. And if you get periods of time in your life where you're up against something that you can't seem to see around, message me. You know? Message me. I'm here for this. I'm here for you. I can share perspective. I can listen. Whatever you need. You know, this is how I am trying to effectively help the collective consciousness grow into love, because we are human beings, part of the human race. Whether, you know, I'm in Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, it doesn't matter. We're all human beings who feel. And it's when we get out of those feelings and we start learning from each other and we start to get to know who we are and listen to ourselves and speak our truth, that we start to become the people that we want to be. And we remember what it means to be that being of love. And that's what it is. We're just trying to remember. We've just been taught many bad behaviors. So I appreciate y'all for being here for this and being here for you. Doing this for you. I really do. My social media is Real Talk for an Unreal World. That's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. My Twitter is RealTalk4 Unreal, and my Gmail is realtalkforanunrealworld@gmail.com. And just email me, you know, shoot me a message on Instagram, whatever you need. Like, remember, I really mean that. I'm a real guy, and I say things, and I want to just say, you know, I'm really grateful for the present moment today, because I'm here and I'm doing this and I'm living it and I'm in it. And it's a wonderful thing to be in this place. I know you can get there too. Much love to all you. I really mean it. Thank you.